After a controversial unanimous decision loss to Ayman Zahabi at UFC 315 on Saturday, Jose Aldo announced his retirement in front of a sold-out crowd in Montreal. Although many fans and analysts believe Aldo had done enough to win, the result didn't alter his decision. He was ready to move on. The UFC Hall of Famer later took to social media to share an emotional farewell, writing, "This may have been my last time inside the octagon. This week, I faced one of the biggest battles of my life, and it wasn't against an opponent, but within myself. Over the past few years, I rekindled the dream of becoming a champion once again. I trained as I always did, gave more than I ever had. But while cutting weight, something inside me said, 'You don't need to do this anymore,' and I listened. It's time to move forward, to live for my wife, for my kids, to celebrate the story I wrote with every war, every belt earned through blood, sweat, and faith. Thank you Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta. Thank you to the UFC. And most of all, thank you my fans. You were the fuel behind every walk to the cage. You made me a king. If this was my farewell, know that I leave in peace with a heart full of gratitude and my head held high because I made history, because I live my dream, because above all I stay true to myself." Aldo retires after 2 reigns as UFC featherweight champion and his 2023 induction into the UFC Hall of Fame. He once held an impressive 18-fight winning streak stretching from the end of his WEC career into his UFC tenure. Henry Cejudo and Colby Covington recently engaged in a lively back and forth, staying true to their reputations for bold promotional antics. While their approaches often divide the MMA community, sometimes being labeled as controversial or even cringe-worthy, their latest interactions seem more lighthearted. In a video shared on Cejudo's Instagram, the two were seen exchanging words at the Celebrity Poker Tour. Despite the heated tone, both fighters appeared to be enjoying themselves, indicating the exchange was likely playful banter rather than a genuine conflict. Tom Aspinall continues to express his frustration over the lack of clarity regarding a potential bout with Jon Jones. The situation has become even more complicated with the recent announcement that Jones will be coaching opposite Nate Diaz on the Russian edition of The Ultimate Fighter, which is set to film in Thailand, a move that further delays any progress toward a fight with Aspinall. Speaking on the High Performance podcast, Aspinall reiterated his concerns, calling on the UFC to either book the matchup or let him pursue other opportunities.
What do you think you can do to make that fight happen?
Me personally, I can't do anything. I think it's just down to money, I think, on his side. So I will fight whenever, wherever he wants, but it's down to money, I think.
You say he's afraid to take the risk. What do you mean by that?
I just think that at this stage in his career, he's had an amazing career. I just think that he's like 37, 38 years old, but not only that, he's got a million miles on the clock. So he's got a lot of damage on the body. He's took a lot of shots to the head. And that's not me saying anything negative about it. That's the reality of it. And I'm sure Jon Jones is aware of that. When you put him in with, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, but I'm literally the most dangerous guy in the UFC if you look at the stats. When you put him in with a guy of my size who has them credentials at this stage in his career, I think Jon's a smart guy and he realises that, so he wants compensating financially for it.
And how does it feel that you constantly have to address this topic?
Oh, I'm well bored of it. I've had enough. We either need to fight or I need to move on and do something else.
AKA coach Javier Mendez believes Belal Muhammad made a pivotal error that ultimately cost him the title at UFC 315. Leading up to the fight, Belal had stated his intention to stand and strike with Jack Della Maddalena, a strategy that played directly into his opponent's strengths. In a recent interview with Submission Radio, Coach Mendez expressed surprise that Belal didn't utilize his wrestling more and identified that strategic choice as the main factor behind the defeat.
That's what happens, you know. You get comfortable thinking, "Oh, I'm going to prove to people I can stand." Because none of us thought that Belal would be able to beat him just stand up. So he wanted us thought that he could do, and that's what I'm thinking, you know. So I could be wrong, but you know, that's what it appeared like to me, that he wanted to stand. He didn't want to implement what got him the title, and that's the mistake people do. And that's one of the things that I don't know if you guys always remember, but I'm always used to be on Khabib all the time, because Khabib, everybody always criticized him for not being good at always keep him on track, but he'd always go off track trying to prove people that he could stand, and he could stand. As the fights went on later, he was able to stand really well. I mean, extremely well, but I still didn't like that, because I wanted him to go back to made him the best, you know. And that's the mistake a lot of fighters make. They want to try to prove their point that they can do other things that people think they can't do, so they go out and attempt them, and they're having success. And this is the case here. I think personally, I could be wrong, but I think Balal wanted to show everybody that he could stand, and he said the words. And sometimes, believe it or not, when you say that, you go out and try to prove what you say, you know. And is this the case? I don't know. Balal knows. I don't. I just know that he didn't do enough takedowns.
Khamzat Chimaev didn't hold back in reacting to Belal Muhammad's loss at UFC 315. Before the fight, Balal had said he'd be willing to face Chimaev at middleweight if he captured the title. But following his defeat to Jack Della Maddalena, Chimaev took to X, formerly Twitter, to mock Balal, posting a photo with the caption, "He's crying again." He followed it up with another pointed message. "Yes, he called me Muslim brother. Then he says he wants to beat me. So should I be nice to you? I like real people, not fake. If you call me brother, you should be my brother. I always support Palestine, but I never support fake people." Chimaev's comment suggests lingering tension and a clear lack of respect between the two fighters. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like and subscribe for daily MMA news.